is the wall to those who fell in the Warsaw Uprising at the Warsaw Uprising Museum. Today, we meet a remarkable man, 10 when the Second World War broke out, 12 when he joined the underground, 13 when he was tortured by the Gestapo, 15 when he took part in the Warsaw Uprising itself. This is the remarkable story of Professor Julian Kulski. Join me on Poland Daily History as we look at this remarkable man's story and his remarkable life. Okay, so we've begun to talk about. We now get to the fateful date, the 1st of August, 1944, 5 p.m., when the action we now know as the Warsaw Uprising took place, began. How did you feel at that moment? Well, this was probably something which everybody had been planning for, I imagine.
Well, planning and dreaming.
That this was going to be the moment.
To be able to fully get back at the Germans, not individuals, but in a real open fight.
Exactly.
I was a member, after I was arrested, a member of the commando unit, and the commandos were used, they were the best armed company in Żoliborz, and we were put on alert in my house on Feliński Street. So there were the whole section of about 14 of us were housed there, and were cleaning our weapons, and waited for almost 10 days for the final word. And that morning, on the 1st of September, 1944, we're told that we were responsible for guarding the transfer of weapons from the place to the other companies. So there were 4 of us sent to Krasiński Street, and Krasiński Street, as you know, it's a very wide avenue. Yes. At that time, it's a one-way street. So 2 of us were on the Suzina corner, and the 2 others on the Kochowski Street. I was on the Kochowski Street side, and the soldiers started carrying out the guns in sacks, and unfortunately it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but the Germans expected the uprising. They knew about it. They didn't know exactly the hour, okay. But they had military police in trucks going all over Warsaw, and one of them came down just, and they saw the guys with the sacks, and they knew what it was all about, so they stopped and they started fighting, shooting at us, and we shot back. And it was unfortunately, that was the beginning of the uprising, the 4 of us, because of this accident. It was a very bad thing, but we had to defend ourselves. That was the first opportunity I had to fire the rifle which was given. Unfortunately, it was one of the rifles that was buried in the ground, and when I shot at this German military policeman, the rifle had never been cleaned, and it shot back and almost lost my eye. Because after that it worked, and I was able to, but we didn't have time. I got the rifle at a couple of hours before the uprising, we didn't have time, and I had no idea of the condition of the rifle.
But as you said, the idea that now with the uprising you could actually engage in open warfare must have made, in some ways, must have made the fighting slightly easier, because you were fighting. You weren't as concerned about clandestine operations.
At first, we had to. We lost the 1st of September in Żoliborz. The German centers were so well prepared and so much with machine guns and bunkers that we lost quite a few soldiers on the first day. So the head of the battalion decided to take us into the Kampinoska forest, and it was a big march. It was raining, and we were very unhappy to have to leave Żoliborz. But about less than 24 hours later, Bor Komorowski sent an order to him to return, and we returned the next day, and we fought the first large battle in Bielany.
This is in the vicinity of the old Opel factory?
No, this was still further at the workers' housing in way out, almost Młociny.
Yes, further north, yes.
And it was early in the morning, and we saw the Germans, so we were stationed in those houses, and they started attacking, and when they realized that we were in full strength, they sent tanks, and it was quite a big battle. We lost quite a few. My commanding officer, platoon leader, got badly wounded.
Yes, yes. And I know it's been a very controversial subject ever since, but at the time when you were engaging in this fight and you were preparing for it, was there any expectation you would actually receive help from the Red Army just across the river in Praga?
Well, first of all, we expected to receive the help from our Polish army in Great Britain, the Air Force, the paratroop unit, and because of Russian interference, partly, and General Montgomery's plans to go into Holland, the parachute division was dropped there instead of being dropped on us. Also, we were assured for 5 years that there would be enough drops from Italy and from England, American fortresses, that would provide us with support. As far as the Russians are concerned, we didn't know, we as soldiers, young children, didn't know what to expect.
Right.
We're not politicians. We were completely unaware of the world affairs. My world was Żoliborz, not even Warsaw.
Yes, and most, of course, all of your fighting in the uprising was in the Żoliborz, Bielany area, particularly.
So this was, from my point of view, I was very happy that it happened, because Baszta, that Ludwig Berger set up, fought in the Mokotów. And I would have had to fight in the Mokotów area, which I didn't know.
No.
But this way I was able to fight in the area which I knew extremely well.
Yes. And that must all, and psychologically, that must have made a difference.
Yes,
you're fighting. You're actually, in this case, you're not fighting for your homeland. You're actually fighting literally for your own home, your own street.
Well, I've got a special admiration for British and Americans fighting another part of the world, because it's difficult for me to put myself in that position where I would fight as well, not fighting for. Well, I was fighting to defend my house, my family, my friends, Poland, and it makes it much easier than fighting overseas.
Yes, I can see that it would do. But as you were fighting, did you feel that you were fighting against overwhelming odds, that the mass of the German forces around Warsaw would ultimately prevail, or did you think that in actual fact you would somehow win?
Well, we don't start a fight if you don't think they're going to win. But pretty soon we realized that we were against tanks and Stukas. And I was not afraid of individual Germans. I was very happy to kill them. But I was terrified of the tanks and terrified of the Stukas. I had one incident. I was in the Opel factory, and there was a big tower on top. And from there you could see the whole Żoliborz, also the forefield. So I was able to report by telephone the movement of enemy's troops attacking us. And evidently the Germans realized that there was a spotter there, and they sent a Stuka to get rid of him. That was me. And he started shooting at me, and he came down so low that I could see the pilot's eyes. But I was terrified. I never came down the ladder so fast as I did that day. And another one was tanks. I was also in the same place, the Opel factory. There was I was within the ground, you know, in the and the tank came over me. You know, I was absolutely terrified. I don't think it was because I was a kid, but I think anybody would be afraid.
I think, well, I would certainly be. If a tank were to come down this street, I would be.
And coming over you.
Exactly.
You know.
I mean, that's
I was in the trench, and he went over the trench.
An amazing escape. And so this fighting went on for 63 days in various...
Well, I was wounded in the uprising twice. On the first day of the uprising and the last day of the uprising. The first day of the uprising, after we left, we had this skirmish on Krasinski Street. We couldn't cross the Krasinski Street because the Germans came in and the battle was going on, so we had to go all the way around to Mickiewicz Street and through the park.
Yeah.
And there's on Krasinski down below. So the fighting started at the upper end of Wilson Square, and I was crossing halfway between the river.